The way I came to know the Lord is through my brother. My brother became a Christian and he started sharing the gospel with me. It was like at the beginning it was very hard because as he was sharing the gospel with me and even the rest of the family, he was like very zealous about it, and most of the time would tell us like, you go to hell, otherwise you have to accept Jesus. So I was not very receptive to his message. But as he was opening the Bible and reading the Bible with me, the word was piercing my heart. I was like, this is what I want. Even though my brother had a wrong approach to it, but every time I was looking forward to the time when he would tell me, Octavian, can we have a seat? Even though I never showed him that I was interested in what he was telling me. There was a time I needed to have a Bible, but I didn't want to tell my brother that, I was responding to the messages that he was sharing with me. And I ended up asking a friend who I knew was a Christian, like, can you give me a Bible? And he said yes. He gave me the Bible, and I remember getting that Bible and took it home, put it under my mattress because I didn't want anyone to see it. And at night I would just pull up my mattress, take out my Bible and read it. And my eyes glance on Isaiah 49 verse 15 and 16, which says, is it possible for a mother to forget the child that she has born? And even though she will, I will not forget you because I've engraved you on the palms of my hands. That scripture was very meaningful to me because when I was born, my dad was 65 years old. And as a child, I had a lot of questions and that I didn't have answers. So when I read that verse, even though it talks about my mother forgetting me, but I was like, the picture that I had at that moment was like, God, can I trust you as my father? And I remember kneeling on my bed, not praying, but sobbing, just crying. I was visiting a friend who was a missionary in Tanzania. And in Tanzania, normally when, churches like on Sundays, they use loudspeakers. And I was visiting my friend. And as I was walking through this church, I've never been to this church before. And the pastor was calling for an altar call. Like, if you've heard the message and you feel prompted in your heart that Jesus, you want to surrender your life to Jesus, please come over. And as I heard that through a loudspeaker, in my heart, I felt like I was prompted, you need to go in there and surrender your life. I'm like, I'm not going in there. That's not my church. I've never been to that church. I've never heard the sermon. I'm not going in there. And I remember starting like shaking and trembling. My hands were shaking. And then I started sweating and I was soaked wet. And I kept walking. And then when I got at my friend's house, I was almost about to knock. And at that time, I was wet and I was still shaking. And the thought came, if you knock at Paul's house, then this guy's a missionary. Will ask you, Octavian, are you okay? And if I told him I was not okay and this is what was going on, he'll start preaching to me. So I decided I'm not knocking. I started to go back to the road. And that was the longest altar call I've ever had because the pastor kept calling. So I decided I'll go in, sit at the very back of the church, and maybe the shaking will stop and then the sweating will stop, then I'll go home. But then the pastor kept calling and I decided to go forward. And then the pastor was like, what can I do for you? And I said, I didn't hear what you preached. I was just going to visit a friend, but I felt in my heart I need to come and surrender my life to Jesus. And that's how I became a Christian. He helped me say a prayer after him, and I said that prayer after him. And since then, by God's grace, my life has never been the same again. Just imagine you're walking and then a semi-trailer runs over you and somehow you survive and you recover. Would you keep that story to yourself? And I didn't even think about it. I said, no, I would want the world to know about it. And then he said, that's right. But every time when I think about that, I see the urgency for me to share my faith with other people. Because again, what will it benefit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeit his own soul? So the good news is just not for Octavian. The good news is for the world. Let's continue to be the salt and the light of the world that God has called us to be.